online format so everybody that's going through the process can easily share it.
Perfect.
Thank you, Daniel and Andrew. Nice to be here at the other side, and very glad to join you today.
One of the reasons we have both Danielle and Santi and myself here so we can share some of our personal experiences when we're talking about doing some of these different techniques that have come up. And the first one that's on the list is fire ceremony. Now, for people that have listened to me for a while, they've heard me say this time and time again. This is when you take personal time in your life to say, it is time for me to connect with myself as a being so that I'm aware of what my signature frequency is and how many other frequencies of other people's are affecting me at any one moment. And when we go to ceremony time, when we go to with a fire, we go there for a reason. And one of the reasons is to have the moment where you tell your story to the fire, where you have enough trust in yourself, enough trust in your environment for you to begin to recall what your life has been. I would like you to pretend that that fire is a friend you haven't seen in 20, 30, or 40 years, and you want to tell them everything. That is your challenge. Can you tell your whole story? It's not about all the little, all the details. It's about remembering the synopsis from when you were 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, to take the time to look to your memories. If you're one of those people that your childhood's a big blank or you have big blank sections, it's because for a frequent period during that time you were not there. And you need to heal those holes in your aura from when you weren't there. In the fire ceremony, where it is called telling your story to the fire, it means you have earned the right by challenging yourself to those vacant memories, to create a synopsis, to create a timeline of, these are my memories. This isn't a creation of memoirs that is into a book. This is something that's coming out of your mouth and maybe having notes that trigger you. You know, oh, when I was 9, I remembered this. When I was 6, I remembered that. So during the weeks ahead of the ceremony, you are doing a little bit of your internal homework. And then the setup of the fire ceremony, preferably outdoors. It can be an indoor fire. Candles are not enough. And I'm going to repeat this over and over again. Candles are not enough because they cannot burn the volume of dense energies when you begin recalling your story of life. We have the times in our life where we are going through the densest of energies, and you may not even be aware of how dense those energies are because you are having good times. But when in fact there were people that were having very bad times around you, and there's a very dense frequency, and you wouldn't realize that reminiscing about that could bring up a whole bunch of things that you weren't prepared for. When we have a bigger fire, when those unprepared things come up, the fire, who you are giving your trust to in this ceremony, takes that energy in and converts it through spiritual alchemy into creation, inspiration, and dreams. Now, I personally recommend, if you're going to do the fire ceremony and you're going to go, well, I want to tell my story to the fire, you're creating sacred space. That means if you're going to do an outdoor and indoor fire, you're doing it alone. And I mean you're doing it alone. If you think you have to have a person there to tell the story, you're missing the whole point of the exercise. It's to have trust in yourself, to actually hear your voice say your story with your colored influence of the way it happened through your expression, not through the expression of who you're going to be telling someone else who may be in justice or judgment. Because the fire is in sacred neutrality. It doesn't matter what you did. It is there to hear your truth. And when you get deep into the truth of who you are and you're able to recall yourself back to 2 years old, back to 5 years old, even if it's one little tiny memory, the next jump is, can you remember being in the fetus in mother's womb? That is the biggest challenge for all people who take up the concept of telling your story to the fire. Because you were a consciousness in your mother's womb, and you were a consciousness you were before you were in the womb. And those are all available into the I Am Presence, who was going through their own memories in introspection, reflection, and retrospection. When we take those on,
one of the most important things that you've said, especially to me when I first started the fire ceremonies, is that you're sharing these experiences with the fire. And some people take this almost like a confession, though, rather than a sharing of experiences. So maybe you can explain a little bit to people about their relationship that they would have with the fire when they talk with it.
confession, that's a good one. Because that's what they were taught in some belief system, this lifetime or other lifetimes. It isn't a confession. It is you going, you know, did I have a big wheel? Yeah, I did have a big wheel. Did I play it a lot? Yeah. Oh, there's my friend John. I used to run over to his house and we'd play big wheels. You know, maybe there was a friend you read books with. Or maybe there's somebody you remember from 6th grade that influenced you, like a teacher. It's about individual memories, the good ones and the bad ones, and how much trust you have in yourself for pulling these memories up in a sacred space, so that any dense energy that might be attached to it in awareness or unawareness is converted back to you to creation, inspiration, and dreams. When we make sacred ceremonial space where we tend the fire, we grow the fire, all the wood that goes in has our prayers on it. Now, there are different prayer things that we can share. A fire has 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. The north is your ancestors. The south is the place of the innocence and the inner child. The east is the place of your illumination and clarity. And the west is the place of your dreams. So if you're trying to get into what the fire ceremony is about, the different places that you sit will help you resolve, you know, what did I dream about when I was 8 or 9 or 16 or 22? You know, what spiritual influences were coming into me. You'd sit in the east direction when I was 16. Oh, this book influenced me. J.K. Rowling's book opened up my creativity and allowed me to view spirituality different because it presented magic. You know, make those associations. Allow yourself to do comparison and contrast. What was your life like before you learned how to drive? And then what was life like after you learned how to drive? So to remove this confession as a just telling of yourself of everything that you've done, because once this I Am Presence begins to understand the synopsis as who it is, all of those other frequencies of people that are influencing you fly out of you. And then at the end of this telling of your story, you are inducted as a fire shaman because you have earned your own trust and earned the right to the next level of multidimensional expression, because you are now sharing with the element of fire in a sacred, neutral manner who you are, with no justice or judgment attached to it.
Beautiful. So we've talked a bit about how you would interact with the fire. So to help people get in this mindset of preparing for the ceremony, why don't you walk someone through what it would be like to have a fire ceremony? Like from the moment they're starting to set the wood down, like what steps would you go through?
Well, first thing first, if it's gonna, I'm just gonna describe it as an outdoor fire. If it's an indoor, just adjust what I say to being indoor. So you find your outdoor space, and you collect your wood. Some people can't manage big wood. You know, a twig fire is okay. You're looking for something that's going to burn for about 45 minutes to 2 hours. Now, if you're brand new into building fires, you don't do it that often, wet wood isn't what you want. You want dry wood. You want kindling. Your kindling is where we use other concepts that we're going to talk about called contract revocation. What that does is it takes your immediate frequency and says to this thing, I am making ceremonial energy, and I do not want war energy here. I do not want psychic parasites. I do not want media. I don't want propaganda. I don't want debt from the banks. I don't want the government influencing my belief system, so on and so forth. It is sending the ground rules of what this sacred space is, so you can earn trust of yourself to tell your whole story without the influences of the reality bubble that you're sharing. So it starts with that bundle that is going to spread fire to the woods that you have stacked around. Alternately, you can get a big cord of wood and pray over that whole cord of wood and do the contract revocations at one time. I would advise that you look at your initial bundle, whatever it is that you're going to make is going to be the thing that, with one spark of a lighter goes up really fast. Or not up really fast, but burns and you know that it's going to catch fire. If your fire goes out, it's okay. The whole point of learning the fire is learning what it takes to create it. And you're not going to be able to do it all in one time. And if you are one of those people that can do it in one time, wonderful for you. You should be professional at ceremony then. Or you should begin to think, well, maybe I scratched just below the surface and there's more that I could do. Really delve into your life at 28, 29, 30. Really delve into who your friends were growing up. Really delve into some of those memories. Bring things to the fire where you can just help trigger memories. There are also times at the fire where you're going to find yourself stumped for not saying anything because literally your programs are stopping you from kicking them out. So giving the time to make prayers for all the wood that's going to be a part of the fire, the contract, it sets the space. The bundle of fire. You bring the fire grows. As the fire is growing and it's making the first set of smoke, that is where you, the individual being, begins to tell the fire, I'm here to gain trust of myself. Will you be my sacred witness of my truth? Will you record this to the Akashic record? Will you be my protector if I should draw up my own dense energies? Will you convert this energy for me? And as that fire grows and grows into something that has high flames and big coals, you have earned the trust of that fire. And then, thus, those dense energies will be taken care of during that ceremonial time. So once the fire is going, the next thing, there are times where dense energies build up and all of a sudden you have these really, really high moments. So what you can do is get a little small bottle of water that that can spray a mist and put some essence oils like sage or frankincense, whatever. And so you can just mist over your fire, so that mist and essence oil creates steam that you can smell. You can spray it on your own body to trigger your body to go into a deeper connection to the fire. If you should at some point feel like you are sleepy next to the fire, sleep, because it is healing you. If you find yourself just stumped and unable to go on, just build a bigger fire and stare. Stare at that fire. Go deep. Share with that fire. Other people say, well, I would like to do it all in my mind. In the beginning, you need to do as much as possible out loud. Just like the contract revocations, you can't just do them once out loud and think they're going to work for the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. It's an endurance battle. And when you're working with fire, earning its trust, it is an endurance energy because the fire can get very sparked up and pull a whole bunch of energy out, and you're just sitting there like this staring at the fire. The fire did do a healing, but it is your duty to tap into the wellspring of creativity and life and then recharge yourself, sit up and go, what's the next memory? And if you continuously find yourself unable to go any further than that, you'll have to find something that is creative that you can bring to the fire so you can break that habit pattern of non-creativity.
What forms of a creation would you suggest? For example, I know that you had suggested for me, I bring out artworks, things where I could draw or create paintings or pictures. And what other things would you suggest for creativity?
Musical instruments, drums, flute, keyboard, whistle, kazoo, something that allows you to create. Sudoku puzzles. I wouldn't say no to that. But you're not there to be entertained. So some people do Sudoku to focus, and there are other people that do it for entertainment. Don't do the crossword puzzle. You need to bring something like, build a model car next to it. Bring your dolls out that you were. If you can find your old teddy bear, bring it to the fire. Talk to it. There are some people that still have that. They're blanky, whatever. Be willing to be the kid by the fire. It's your fire. Roast marshmallows on it. Make s'mores. It is yours to enjoy. And if, again, you find yourself with the cranky, serious face, with the tight butt, you're not letting you do yourself anything, that is just telling you how disconnected you are from what's going on right there.
When can you bring someone to the fire? Because I know you've mentioned in the beginning it's important to not, but I think you've said later it's okay.
After you've reached a plateau where you are sure enough that the synopsis of your life that you've done has covered just about everything, because there are memories you're not going to remember. It's covered enough, and then you've at least begin to touch what it is to be in the womb as a fetus, even if it's just creativity. Because there's that monkey mind aspect, and we talk about this with Santi. There are times where it's real, but at the same time your mind wants to deny it. Just let it be real. And that's the mental leap of faith there. That you've touched what it was to be you in the fetus, that is this being here in full awareness. That's ultimately the goal of telling your story to the fire. To be at the 0 point of the fetus in mother's womb where you are a non-karmic being.
So how do you close the ceremony? So once you have sat by the fire and done the expression and roasted your marshmallows or painted your pictures and you're ready to close it for the night, what steps do you recommend for people who are
You do contract revocations at the end also. And that you ask that the earth enter this whole saying into the earth Akashic record, so all other past, present, and future versions of you know that you've begun the process of telling your whole story in the time of the great Dreamtime awakening. Because it is only our stories that change our civilization and people into a unity expression. And fire is the common medium we have been using in thousands and millions of other residual selves. On every world that started with fire, we have used fire. We have been that primal. It is that familiar to you. If you just allow yourself to go back to that familiarity, it is not going to be a hillbilly or a backwoods or this. It is your sacred time. Your sacred space, no one else's. And when you own that space, then you bring others in. And for some people, it'll be a real challenge because they're so connected to others.
So I think the next thing would be wonderful to hear is Santi's story, of his experience with fire ceremonies. And how was your first fire ceremony for you, Santi?
It was actually the first time I did contract revocations. I did them on a fire ceremony, really by myself, alone, and that was pretty intense. Actually, the first couple of times it has been just fires, just contract revocations. Whoever is familiar with contract revocations can definitely move a lot of things in one. To do it on the presence of the fire, it really, for me, it always brings tears to my eyes, often enough. I began to understand the intimacy that brings. Although at the beginning you say, okay, well, Andrew said it, let's do it, let's check it out, But you really begin to sense the presence of the fire as an energy that was embracing me, to the point where in the next ones where I began to tell my story and the next ones, actually the fire itself talks to you physically, for God's sake. There were moments where the shapes, even the shapes, at a certain moment it was making a heart. It was fantastic. It was for minutes building. The fire was doing a heart like that. It was, wow. That was amazing. That was so what can I say? It's an experience that is I'm just beginning to scratch and I enjoy more and more.
A lot of people, when they're telling their story to the fire talks loud. Snap, crackle, pops. You know, you may be coloring the story a little bit, and it'll check you right there. Or
You
you
bet.
may see smoke spirals, like as you're like, oh wow, you really remember something. You look over to the fire, and there's a perfect smoke tornado coming up because the fire has just shown you that it's in perfect synchronicities with you. That's when you know you're doing your ceremonies right, when the fire is talking and the smoke is talking to you in ways that your eyes see. And if the fire is constantly smoking you out, it's telling you something too.
For sure. Change the tune.
Exactly.
Change the
tune.
perspective.
Exactly. As soon as you do it, it won't be smoking you out anymore.
I remember with some of my own fire experiences, part of what I would do is I'd like to do energy healing along with it. So I'll find points in my body and I will actually draw them out and I'll give them to the fire.
Yep.
And it's a fun game we play now that we're feeling really connected to each other, because after a while I can see when I throw the energy in, then some puff of smoke will come out. I throw the energy in and a puff of smoke will come out. It's like, going, got it.
So then there are times that people want to do fire ceremony and want to include, they really want an experience. I mean, they're so desperate for an experience. It comes to the next part of the teaching where we're going to be talking about colonics and detox. Many times when people hear me telling a person to tell their story to the fire, I actually tell them to do it simultaneously with a 2-week colon detox. Now, there are kits out there that are a 2-week kit. Basically, you take a group of pills in the morning that are a cleanse. In the afternoon, you're taking fiber, and then in the evening, you're taking the detox pills or something to that effect. And you're going to be doing this for 2 weeks, and you absolutely have to make sure you're drinking 60 to 80 ounces of water a day, or you're going to be so bound up you are not going to be pleasant. During this 2-week process, I am recommending at least twice a week, if not 3 or 4 times a week, you get outdoors or an indoor fire, and you go for at least an hour to an hour and a half so that you can get into this frequency of what I just described about for the ceremony. Now, why we do this is when we are telling the story, and in the same time, our physical body is going through a detox, we're saying, I don't need this anymore. All of the dense energy that the fire is burning up is now giving your body, which is connected to your spirit, an even higher layer of healing. This is where we begin to recycle the deepest programmed water of our life. Water, we're 86% water. And the science of water, it is programmable. It is crystalline. We are a light body frequency that comes into this flesh mass, manifests in it, and we hold on toxic things, from GMO food to negative psychic information to a body that's alkaline or acidic. And colon health is where 80% of your immune system exists. Colon in an intestinal tract is where your dreaming body exists, quite literally. For your dreaming body to work, it needs an alkaline intestinal tract. It needs meridians that are in line with its gallbladder, with its kidneys, with the lymph nodes, so that you're adequately draining. If you're not adequately draining, you are retaining things. You may be under psychic attack, you may have been energy fed on, or you've just been really rough on your spirit, really rough on your body. And when you go to do this detox during a time of the fire ceremonies, there's an easy way, and then there's the not so easy way. The easiest way is to just suck it up, buttercup, and go do the colonics before you start your fire ceremonies. You will feel 1,000 pounds spiritually lighter by doing a colonic and then starting your contract revocations at a ceremonial fire instead of starting there without even expressing any little bit of the toxicity that's in your gut out, so that the experience you have by the fire actually stays in your memory and isn't overridden by the toxicity. So what I recommend is that people that are serious about connecting to the fire, serious about having spiritual experience, serious about healing themselves, that they get a 2-week colon cleanse kit, and before they start it, they go and do 2 colonics. If you can do them back to back, do them back to back, but not more than 4 days apart. Why? Because you are giving yourself the head start. You are giving yourself the easy button to actually have a deeply healing and spiritual experience that will greatly affect you over a longer period of time. Now, the colon, as I said, that's where this negative energy it stores negative psychic data. It's the mucus layer throughout the intestinal tracts that stores toxins that we've absorbed, heavy metals, bacteria, candida, and all of these other things. The nickel you ate when you were 5 years old is still in there. All of that needs to be flushed out so brand new mucus with brand new water can be created with none of those old programs attached to it. What are those old programs? Well, if you ate a meal that was created by your girlfriend who you had just had an argument the night before, that argument in that meal is in your mucus tract. You've never let it go. So every time your mother ever made you a meal with love, it's still in there too, but it is also in the soup of meals that you've had from McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or pizza that was made by a 16-year-old kid that hates his life. You don't know what's coming in there, and in your unawareness, you now become aware enough that if I completely detox my colon, my intestinal tract, I do the colonics, I do the 2-week colon cleanse kit, I make sure I'm taking 60 to 80 ounces of water a day, and then only thing I have to change in my diet is in the mornings and the afternoons, instead of having big meals, you switch to juicing. It is so vitally important that you keep high energy. Juicing helps your body convert its metabolic energy. It helps your colon itself and your intestinal tract itself begin to absorb the right amounts of nutrients. It can take you out of acidity much faster. It brings way more areas for toxins to be dumped into the material that is the juice. If you're creating smoothies or shakes, you can add blue-green algae or chlorella to that, as well as a bunch of other things like chia seeds, but that's taking it a little bit of a higher level.
So what are some of the juices, just some basic juices for people who maybe aren't initiated in juicing that they could put together?
Carrot juice and beets with some ginger in it, celery and apples, oranges and apples, any of those combinations of fruits and vegetables. And the key is you got to drink it as soon as you finish juicing it. Within, I think, 15 minutes, the vast majority of the enzymes are gone. If you can drink that juice down pretty fast, as soon as it gets into your stomach, if there's no food in there, your stomach will go acidic or alkaline real fast based on what's in there. It'll go into the duodenum, and as soon as it goes to the duodenum, it starts absorbing those enzymes and puts them right into the blood. And then the blood goes, oh, there's all these enzymes that can break down toxins. It tells the body to create fresh mucus in the intestinal layer so that it can dump these toxins into that new mucus. So you are now aiding the process of detoxing by having the juice in your stomach before you eat food, and then you eat a big meal, one big meal a day, preferably in the afternoon or evening, and then you juice to replace all lost energy. You are drinking as much juice as possible. Now, you can go and buy those bottled juices like the Udwala, the organic ones. They're very good. They have a good shelf life. And $9, I think, or $8, you can get yourself 2 liters of it. So, you can get $80 worth of that juice, so you're not constantly at the juice machine. And juicing, it can be expensive. Don't get me. You need fresh vegetables. You have to clean the machine up when you're done. So it is a challenge. So having some alternative sort of juice like those like Adwala or any of the other big ones that are high qualities, very good to have on hand because you need to maintain your fluidity. There are so many people that when they go to do their first colonic, they realize how low on water their body really is. You know, most people are 2 quarts low, in some scenarios 3. You know, your body's been functioning on such little water that it's very easy for it to go acidic. So when you have the right volume of water that isn't polluted, it's very hard for your body to turn acidic. And juicing combined with the colonics, with the 2-week kit, resets your body so that you are in an alkaline state with the right amount of fluid connected to your dreaming body.
So when a person's about to start this whole process, they would start, like you said, with the 2 colonics. Before they go onto these 2 colonics, are there any steps they should take, like maybe in the days before, the day before, week before they go start these 2 colonics?
Contract revocations. Why? Because you're setting the frequency that you're saying no to the reality so you can let go of your junk. Junk, a lot of it you may be unaware of. Like I said, that food that you ate that's got an angry attachment to it, or you dealt with entities when you were 9 years old and the food that you ate then is still in your stomach because it was never processed. I mean, I know people that literally can lose 40 pounds in poop. I know a guy that fasted for 50 or for 40 days and 68 pounds of poop he lost. That's how blocked up this guy was. You know, I mean, he's in more of an extreme case, ate a lot of fast food when he was growing up, had a little bit of phase of being a vegetarian, so he broke off some of it, but went back to being a fast food junkie. Until the point where he got very sick. He didn't know what was going on. His immune system was failing. They thought he had hepatitis C. Actually, what he had was candida that was so bad that he had petrified poop in his body. You know, it took him 13 colonics to get it all out, and fasting, because it was that petrified. He was that low on water for his whole life.
Also, it's very good, you know, aside from the contract revocations, and this any colonic place will tell you, it's a very good idea to drink lots of water beforehand. Yeah. Lots and lots, because when you go to a colonics place, if you know, when you go through that process, if you don't have enough water, your body will be in absorbing mode rather than releasing mode, and you want to be in releasing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's why I tell people that you do a colonic also at the end of your 2-week phase. Okay, you do it at the front and at the end. Why? Because if there's anything left that you missed, it'll be ready to go. You've got enough trust in yourself at that point.
So when people stop the 2 colonics, so they've gone and they've done these 2 colonics, they start on the cleanse. I know you have mentioned, you know, and you've said, because people are going to ask what kind of cleanse to go for. It's just a standard 14-day cleanse. Is there anything they should be looking for?
Just this, they're all pretty common. The 2-week colon cleanse kit, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And for those people that work, when you're on these colon cleanse kits, it's not like you all of a sudden get like no warning and it's going to come. You have so much fiber in your body, you get plenty of warning before your body. And if you do the juicing and you eat the one big meal a day, you know when it's going to come. Okay? Because the other times it's going to be really fast, it's going to be full of fiber, and it's just going to come out like a freight train, and you're going to drop off 15 pounds and you're done. I'm being a little exaggerative, but you understand what I mean, because when you're so full of fluids and fibers, it's just the whole train of feces is just full of toxins, and you'll smell it right away.
Right. Well, and you know, for the actual colonics experience, for those who haven't done it or who might be worried about doing it, it's not invasive in any way. It's actually, you know, when you go to a colonics place, they make a lot of effort to make you feel very relaxed and very calm and very safe. And what happens is, you know, often the person doing the colonics will talk with you about what's going to happen, and they'll lay you down, and they insert a tube inside, just very slightly, and it will allow water to enter your system. And you feel that. And the most you may feel is you may feel a little discomfort, as though you have to go to the bathroom. It's not pain. You know, you feel like you might have to go to the bathroom a little bit, but what you do is while this is happening, you imagine yourself releasing. You imagine yourself letting go of stuff. You know, for those who have experienced a great deal of pain, they come to the point where you understand, you know, pain is just a perception. And in this process, you're healing. You're healing and you're releasing. So you work with that feeling and that energy and the water that's inside of you, and you will have amazing results as it's flushing you out.
Santi, what kind of experiences did you have when you had your colonics?
As a matter of fact, it was I did 3 colonics basically, and one thing that I remember is the third one I went a little bit stressed. You know, typical, that happens to me sometimes. And for whatever reason, I was on a rush, and that day I was releasing way less, because I was stressed, I was withholding, so it was more ineffective. So one thing that comes to mind is very important to make your time. Don't just do, hey, I gotta do the colonic, because then you are defeating the purpose of the whole thing. Okay, that's the first thing that came to mind to mention. But basically, from the first one to the second one, as I learned to let go and to breathe through it and to allow more water and more fluid to enter my body and get deeper and deeper, it was notorious, the difference of how much, you know. At the beginning I say, hey, I'm not that dirty. I was telling the look, there's not so much as he was explaining on the colors that come out. This is, you know, this comes from the liver or whatever, you know, depending. And I didn't have so many colors on the first time, and on the second time I released much more. Which one would think, hey, so the second one, obviously it meant that the first one began to open, but I couldn't release as much. So the second one was way better because I was releasing much more. And as a matter of fact, you know, I'm just out of my colon cleanse, hesitating if I'm going to continue, but I'm definitely very interested in seeing what happens on the next colonic, which I'm planning to do at the end.
Yeah, and you'll probably have a really big release on your liver and your gallbladder, which would be great for you, you know, because that means you have, when you go on to do the next part of the cleanse, your heavy metals, because there's a whole different layers of cleanse. There's the 2-week colon cleanse, there's the heavy metal cleanse, there's candida cleanse. If it's really tough, you don't actually kill it in your 2-week cleanse. And then you have liver, gallbladder, and kidneys. And if you do the colonics while you're doing your colon cleanse, you can flush all those other things out at the same time, and you don't have to be on an 8-week or a 16-week regimen. If you learn how to use the colonics in conjunction with the juice diet that I described, you can eat anything during your one giant meal a day, anything you want. Preferably as little pork as possible, but you know, any food that you want. Okay, and you can eat a significant volume. You just have to make sure that on the bookends, the day and the night, that you're not eating anything else that's solid, so that when the solid mass comes through your intestinal tract, it is literally creating this corkscrew thing that is pulling everything forward and making sure that you are continuously letting go of toxins.
Perfect. Okay, did we cover colonics and detox with that, or did you?
How colonics attach to fire ceremonies? Now let's include this, because a lot of times this comes hand in hand, and this.
Okay, I'm going to do this.
This will lead into contract revocation too. So if you're serious about listening to all this, or you can see Santi and Danielle have done it, as well as thousands of other people that have been in the same scenario. It is an extremely effective technique. You just have to set the time ahead for yourself where, all right, if I'm going to do 2 colonics in the beginning and 2 colonics at the end, or 2 in the beginning and 1 other end, whatever it works out, my time during this, where am I going to have my ceremonial fires? Am I actually going to be alone, or are the kids going to be nagging me the whole time? Can I walk out to my fire without having my wife come and sit down and going, what are you doing? Are you going to be worrying about your Christian neighbor over there sitting there watching you? You have to be able to make sure that the spot that you choose is going to have enough potential for you to actually get through without being distracted, without somebody breaking your ceremonial space. When you start doing ceremonies and you notice things are breaking it, you have to willingly verbalize to those people that are breaking it, hey, this is my moment. This is where I'm doing something that's special for myself. Make sure that is, and if they continue to violate it, more than likely they're just being idiots, but they also may be a part of that dense energy that doesn't want you to release. Okay? So connect it. Do the 2-week colon cleanse. Have at least 3 fire ceremonies per week. It's every other day. And if you do 2 days in a row, cool. The whole point of doing 3 one week and 3 the next week, it's just like the colonics. You may have told your whole story by that 3rd fire. So what are you going to do those other 3 fires for the next week? That's your chance to create. That's your chance to say who I am in the now. This is your chance to say, what does sovereignty mean to me? This is your chance to say, what does disclosure mean to me? This is your chance to tell your boss off that you never got to tell off when you were 22. This is your chance to just be creative in your own sandbox, with your own fire, with your own s'mores, and not a mom telling you you're going to burn yourself. Okay?
Contract revocations.
Dun dun dun. So many people have burst into tears and have no idea why when they're reading the media contract revocation, or the banking, or the sacred feminine or masculine. They are written in a format that identifies everything that's in the system of domination and control that is attempting to dominate and control you. So if it tells the whole system. So if you frequently tell that system, no, I don't believe in you. No, I don't believe in ancestral karma. No, you cannot hand me your debt. No, you cannot take my son to war. No, you cannot take me to war. No, you cannot enforce a male-dominated society. No, there cannot be this and this and this. And you begin to regularly do these out loud. Why out loud? Because your voice is now telling your shared reality environment you are in charge. So what I recommend is there are 5 contract revocations. Do 1 a day for 14 days. Okay? Does that mean you have to do them every day? No. There's 7 days in a week. But if you do all of them, repeat them twice, and you look at the way you read it from the first time to the last time. Now, not everyone's going to be able to do these in front of the fire, and like Santi was saying before, when you do them in front of the fire, there is a much more increased effect into it. Why? Because you are beginning to share and share and share and share. And there are some people that go to big ceremonies and read these contract revocations with hundreds of people in them. And in fact, there's a big group in Australia and a big group in United Kingdom that have about 200 people in their practice that say these contract revocations before they start any of their traditional sacred rituals. Why? Because they've come to learn that it isn't me, it is about the words of what you're saying. It is about the sovereignty of what is in those frequencies. It is about your self-empowerment in the now as the co-creating being that is multidimensional, that understands that it has a legacy to inherit, and that we must begin to learn that legacy. The contract revocations set the frame for sacred space so that you can create a protective bubble around you to create inside.
So the contract revocations that you have right now, and these are contract revocations that you have made free and available for everybody on the site, and they'll be included with this recording as well. These revocations, you have said before, are base points for people to start with. But you have mentioned before the importance of learning how to create your own contract revocations.
Absolutely. When we go to create our own, when we understand what the frequencies of the 5 are, we are able to create soul signature frequency surgery, where we can remove Jane, our second ex-wife, from our energy field, surgically remove them with words that are still remaining in sacred neutrality. It is where we can write something that's very different in style from mine, and acknowledges more of what the system has influenced you in this lifetime, how it has brought you into karmic resolution, and how you no longer allow the waves of karma to affect you. Or you can go into something surgery specific about your parents who may have been abusive with you, or a family member who was sexist against you, that ultimately made you, somehow cause something in your mind from what that person was doing. So when you get back to the base points of things that have negatively influenced you over the life, you can go back with contract revocations and remove those signature frequencies from ever being in you.
So how would you suggest someone goes about starting, because for many people this can seem like such an overwhelming task to put things to paper. Where do you suggest that they start to find inspiration for their revocations?
Well, what I recommend is to begin it with roughly the way I have it. You're creating what's called a spiritual cord of equity. And that's the key to the whole teaching, what a spiritual cord of equity is. That is where your ancestors in your DNA lineage and your soul family lineage come to sit in witness, sacred neutral witness of you telling your truth, of you telling the reality. I do not consent to this. I do not accept male-dominated society. And on the sacred feminine, that they are God, goddess incarnate. They do not have to be little beings. They can be great beings. To re-empower the self. So there are prayers that are in the beginning there, like in the sacred masculine, where it says, bless me so I can walk this sacred soil, bless me so I can breathe the sacred air. And it is bringing you into a different frequency, slowing your body down, your mind down, so that these moments where the spiritual cord of equity is all around you, all of your past, present, and future lives, which were shared by these ancestors, are now also there in communion and union with you, so that the spiritual cord of equity leads to the final process of remedy and resolve, where we will no longer need justice or judgment as the rules that define this reality function. With contract revocation, we can literally change the way the reality functions on the energetic layers for us.
Beautiful. So, like you have mentioned before, when people have read some of these revocations, some of the signs they can see that something's affecting them is they may burst into tears.
Right.
What are some other things?
Stuttering. Stuttering. Pronouncing the words absolutely wrong. Filling in the blanks. Where I've run into so many people, words like patriarchal, they literally can't pronounce it. And they've done it before. Patrick, and then denizens, that's another one. Look at the sentence structures, and if I put things together that are triggery on purpose, and Santi can attest, I know there's certain parts in different contracts that every time tears come to his eyes. Why? Because his soul has a lot to do with that theme, that metaphor coming through, and for his voice to say it and his soul to hear it in perfect reverberation has caused those emotional tears to let go, so the healing can be a part of it. There are people that just read through them with no emotion. That is another thing. That means you're not really connected to them. You have to be willing to beat your fist a little bit. You have to be willing to use your adrenaline a little bit. If you're not, you're just another monotone, regurgitating person up there. You cannot be monotone. You got to be connected. Why? Because this is your sovereign reality in which you're declaring the rules. If you're a little mousy like this, I do not consent to this, I don't like that, you're not giving yourself the freedom to be who you are, to declare your own reality as sovereign. And when you let that shell go and let it open, not only does your voice take over the room, not only does it scare entities out of here, it allows you to have peace. Contract revocations have been used to depossess people. Why? Because it's that damn powerful when you put your soul to it, when you put your heart to it, when you put your life to it.
And you've mentioned also, this is important for people to hear, it's so important to say them out loud, to say the words out loud, not just to think it or just to, to say it.
With projection.
With projection. And you've also mentioned the importance of saying it more than once. You said earlier it was like an endurance.
It is an endurance battle. People ask me that want to become really advanced at what contract revocation, fire ceremony, and detox can be. If you can find yourself reading each contract every day, there's 5, and it takes roughly 40 minutes to read them all out loud each day. And you do that for 2 weeks, okay? And then there are other people that want to take it to a longer method. Well, look at yourself for a month. Can you do 30 days of contract revocations each day? And fire ceremonies during that month, and a colonic during that month? That's the challenge. Why is it endurance? Because once you've gone a month of defining your reality, that next month you are no longer predictable to the system. And all of your energy that the system has been stealing is now there waiting for you to take it. Just take it. Because the system tries to plan a month or 2 or 3 months ahead. And when you stop that, or some people, it plans years ahead or even dozens of lifetimes ahead. They've given that much freedom away. And that's why those individual beings, need to do deep levels of contract revocation, where maybe they need to do them twice a day. Why? Because they've had so many lifetimes where they were the incarnation slave that it's impressed into their light body. That quite literally, they came in imprinted as a slave because there was another species that came here and imprinted it upon us. And it is your own sovereign will to do it enough so you can claw back all those damn lifetimes they stole from you. It's mine, bitches, not yours. Santi, what were your experiences with the contract revocations?
As I said before, invoking the spiritual court of equity, to this day, most of the times, it brings tears to my eyes. So it's depending on the days, but it really clears up so much energy. I mostly do them on ceremonial fires. That's most of the times. But the fact of the matter is I even have done it with friends. Just say, hey, come, I gotta share this with you. Come sit with me in this fire. Let me read you this. And that's a different experience that I have done after doing several, and for me it's powerful. It brings so much emotions. I release so many emotions that it really brings me to a sense of freedom each time that I read them. And yeah, healing, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Danielle, your experiences when you first came across the contract revocations?
I had a lot of fierceness with some of the entries in the contract revocations, especially things about war and some of the masculine revocations really resonated with me. But when I finally started to read them, and I started to do them with the ceremonies, especially the ones that I made for myself and healing specific experiences I had, I would immediately be able to tell when I healed something with revocation, because it was like almost like, oh, like it's like something like sliming off of you. It's like you feel it kind of go, whoa, and it just kind of it would really release me. And there were times I'd start my response was cracking up. I would start laughing really hard because I'd be like, haha, I found you. I found where this was. And I had some really interesting experiences with just when I was finally able to release and say these revocations, especially alongside the fire, I would feel actual chakras opening up at several points. And you could it would just, things that were stuck there for so long were just suddenly removed just by saying it. And like you said too, I would experience sometimes with a word that would keep getting jumbled up, and I would keep doing the word until I could say it straight, and then you could feel it like click, like something, something unclicks. And it's just been amazing. And I keep making revocations as I'm progressing through my different layers of healing, and I see what comes up, and then you tackle those.
Yeah. The key with contract revocations is remaining sacred neutral, to not allowing the polarity or the coloring of the situation influencing what you're saying. Right from that neutral perspective. And honor and reverence to the ancestors so that they're a part of it, because that spiritual court of equity, they're the ancestors. They're there to witness your truth saying. And if there's an energy that you no longer want, you give it to the spiritual court of equity so they can find remedy and resolve. That's why they're ancestors. That's why they're in the astral world, to find remedy and resolve as the infinite beings, because we're the finite beings, and we can't always find remedy and resolve here. There are many scenarios in which you can give it away so that it comes back to you in a new form to be processed properly.
Do you have maybe an example of that for people who are listening, like giving an energy and having it come back, like how that might be?
Let's say you have a group of some parents that argued frequently, and you have a child, and the child's doing the contract revocation and is writing their one where, every time my parents argued, I absorbed their energy. I now remove all energy of arguing from my parents from my signature frequency, and I call to my spiritual court of equity to begin to receive every moment of every argument in which I was overwhelmed by the energy of my parents, who were two adults arguing amongst myself, and I was the medium between them. I am no longer the medium for their emotional arguments. I am no longer a medium or a target for their emotional energies. All energies they have broadcast upon me during that argument phase is hereby given to the spiritual court of equity, so it may return to those that created it as creation, inspiration, and dreams. So healing is the ultimate response.
Beautiful. What did you want to say on behalf of contract revocations and soul family reunions?
That's the peak of a lot of what I'm teaching. So people that have done the fire ceremony, people that have done the colon cleansing and the colonics, have done contract revocation during this whole time, and then have learned about salt and crystals and the other stuff we're going to talk about a little bit, that you're actually able to create a sacred space in which you create a ceremony of the mind, where all of those other contract revocations you've done come to fluid motion in one day or one night, in which you are intending to invite soul family members that you haven't seen in thousands or millions of years to come to you in a sacred neutral reunion, in which in your mind, at sitting by the fire, you have taken the time to create what the food is like, where they're going to park their cars or their dragons or whatever it is that they're coming with, or horses. You have entertainment there. You have chairs, you have tables, you have flowers. In your mind, you've created this in that sacred ceremonial place. And then when the fire goes out, you return to your bed and you begin a process where you visualize the North Pole Aurora Borealis, and you share that creational space, that ceremonial space where you created this soul family reunion energy, and you call out to the Earth Mother so that your true soul family of the highest healing light comes to you with a proper residual image, so you can begin the process of knowing who your soul family is. And you won't be scared if their image pops into your mind or if they actually physically manifest in front of you, because you have given them the energy and the space to remain neutral. Because once they begin to show, polarity in you may come, and then polarity will recede. And as you are able to communicate further and further, you'll know what your soul family is here to do. You'll learn about your DNA lineage. You'll begin to have other visitations of other soul family members who are bringing soul shards back to you. Because many soul family members are holding on to soul shards of you in a time like now, during the Great Awakening. They're supposed to be giving them back to you. But if you're so unaware of soul family, how can they ever give them to you and you properly calibrate them back into your spirit? So having soul family reunions means that you can begin this process of integrating soul shards that other soul family members are holding in trust for you.
So that is the goal of almost all these processes here that
Right.
we are talking about, is to really, and this is the retrieval part of this, like you said, the retrieval of soul shards and the connection to these soul family members within that sacred neutral. Can you explain one more time, people who are listening, what it means to be sacred neutral?
It is where you have when you have let go of dogmas and political beliefs, and you acknowledge in that I am presence moment now that all spiritual beliefs contain spiritual truths, and that everyone is entitled to their truth. And at that sacred neutral moment, you are not in justice or in judgment. You are in remedy and resolve. In that sacred neutral moment, you still remember that you were a fetus in the mother's womb, and you still remember that you were a soul before you incarnated in this life. It doesn't matter if you remember all of them. You acknowledge that you are an infinite being in an infinite world that has this fraud reality around it, and that it is your own sovereign choice to come from the heart and be fully authentic at all times.
Did we want to mention anything else about contract revocations or soul family reunions at this time on a basic?
No, that's pretty basic for it right there. If people are going to be
Okay.
following this as a concept, for those that really want to do the big thing, if you got a month, do the contract revocations for a month. Do the 2 weeks of detox and the fire ceremonies. When you're done with the detox, continue the fire ceremonies. Learn to dance around the fire. Play a drum to the fire. Tell a story to the fire. Read a book to the fire. Do something that keeps you at that fire in that sacred space, so you're continuing to grow to the ultimate goal of reconnecting yourself to your dreams. You know, if you've got a business you want to start, tell it to the fire. If you've got an idea for a product that would be really cool, tell it to the fire. Don't be afraid.
Okay. Salt.
The
You
great
mentioned
equalizer.
the great equalizer. We've mentioned many times about salt, pink salt, and many different kinds of salt before. Tell us a little basic. So, go on.
Salt is a crystal. Salt is a base element. Salt has a crystalline spirit in it whose purpose is to be the great neutralizer, to be the great balancer of energy and frequency. So when we bring salt into our existence, not necessarily just eating it, and let's say we use salt in what I recommend people to do is to take about a half cup of salt, non-iodized, like pink salt, whatever, Stick it in a bag and stick it on the back of your neck between your collar, and just let it sit there. And for other people, lay down on a bed and put it under your head, under your bed. Put it over your eyes. And begin to realize it is now neutralizing all the stress energy. People that have migraine headaches, put your salt on your forehead over where it is. You would be surprised at how much pain it's going to begin to neutralize. Situations where you have entities, salt is once again the great neutralizer. It makes it very difficult for these entities to go through manifestation modes so that they can harvest energy from you. You know, if they're not manifested in some way, shape, or form, even if it's slightly, they can't really take your energy other than sniffing the fear that's coming off of you. So salt is a crystalline entity that is connected to the earth with the expressed purpose of being the great neutralizer of all energies, even the galactic central sun energy. That is salt's purpose, to bring balance to the environment.
Amazing. So you have said, just to recap, salt in a bag under the neck. Just for a lot of questions that have popped up, can they put it in a Ziploc bag or a cloth bag, or what's the best sort
Whatever
of?
doesn't leak. Whatever you feel. A lot of people use Ziploc bags. And it's not really about the plastic. It's just getting as much volume onto your skin as possible without it being messy and going everywhere. Can you put the Ziploc bag into a piece of cloth? Yeah, you can do that too. The key is that it is on top of you. It is now a part of your energy field. And a lot of times I tell people to add sage and silver to their salt. The three S's, silver, salt, and sage, those are the three great alchemizing things that are out there that one can use. When you begin to regularly use these, one on your neck and one on your tailbone, like before you go to sleep, for example, for those people who don't get dreams, you want to get a sample of your dream world, get a salt on your neck, silver, salt, and sage in a bag on your neck and on your tailbone, and tape them. Get some medical tape and actually tape them to your body so that they stay there all night long. You will dream. You will go through an experience when you wake up the next morning, or you may find yourself pulling it off because literally it is flooding your body with dreaming energy. It is bringing back balance to where your balance had been taken away.
How much, you've mentioned about a half cup of salt, so how much sage and silver do you recommend to place into that?
Well, it all depends. If you have loose sage, and you're just grinding up the leaves, handful, a good handful like that. I mean, it's not very much, but at the same time, it could be. I mean, it depends on how big your leaves are.
Sure.
So it's like a 3-to-1 ratio, more salt than sage and silver. And you just need a little silver, like a silver mercury dime, an old silver ring that you don't use will work fine just all. Just having that frequency of silver, the silver is a great antibiotic energy, a great purifying metal energy. And a lot of times people that are heavily affected by salt have some type of metal deficiency. And as soon as you add the silver in there, it takes care of that metal deficiency in the energy frequency.
Perfect. And so you mentioned on the back of the neck and the tailbone, and you have mentioned before that you can use like medical grade tape to keep it affixed to those areas.
Yep.
Perfect.
Alternatively, there are some other things that can do. Let's say you're at work and you can't cover up the one on your neck, and you can have one over your tailbone, because it's really easy to hide one over your tailbone. No one really knows it's there. You can make a smaller bag with silver, salt, and sage and a crystal in it and put it on the inside of your socks, under your jeans, or under your pants, whatever you're wearing. That can be very beneficial when you're at work. You know you're stressed out. You know you got a lot of things to accomplish, and you just need to be grounded. There's your instant grounding tool, one in your left and right sock. And for women out there that are wearing nylons or wearing dresses, put it on the floor. Put the bag on the floor and let your feet rest on top of it with no shoes on.
Interesting. What about, you've also mentioned before, salt baths, especially after a colonics or a fire ceremony or a certain revocation.
Okay,
yeah.
We have an outer energy field And then we have an energy field that's about a 1/4 inch off of our body. When we take salt baths, we are cleaning the outer aura and that aura field that's a 1/4 inch off your body. What saltwater baths open our pores up so we let toxins go into the water. When we are in these salt baths and we choose to have meditative expressions where we deeply relax, we let deep core energies go and allow the salt to bring even deeper neutralizing energies into us. For those people that work at a crappy job, one of the best things you can do when you get home is to take a salt bath. If you don't have a bath, all you have is a shower, what you can do is do an exfoliant with salt on you. You can just get your body wet and then rub the salt all over your body. Let it soak in for a little bit. And then spray it off. And you can repeat it over and over again. That is not as effective, but if that's the only thing you have, do that. Now, well, a lot of people, you can grab a bucket and put hot water in it and stick your feet in there with some salt in the water. That is another thing you can do if you don't have a bath. Preferably a bathtub. Why? So you can stretch out and actually relax with the warmth of the water and all of that energy of the salt constantly bringing into neutrality your outer aura, your surface aura, your inner aura, your organs' energies. Allowing all of that water to absorb all of this psychic pollution, so when you stand up and you're out of that bathtub and that water's going down, all of that psychic pollution you have just put into that water is now being recycled back to the land, and it's no longer attached to you.
When someone is done with the with their bath, or actually, before we jump to there, how long should they be in a bath for?
However long it takes. I know a lot of people that as soon as they start the salt bath, they get in there and within like 15 minutes they have to get out because they can't be that neutralized. They're too aggressive people. They're too upgoing and fast. And then there are other people that get in there and they wait until the water turns cold. Wonderful. If you're going to do it, anything less than 35 minutes is not enough. But if that's all you have is just that 35 minutes before the kids come, do it. Okay? Do it. Again, parents with kids, you have a kid that's energy ornery, stick them in a salt bath. You're going to be surprised at all it changes in them.
So when the bath is done and they're draining the water, I've once heard too that when the water is draining, to sit with the bath while the water is draining and imagining any residual energies coming
Going
off
into the water, yeah.
down the drain. Yeah. And when they get up, would you just suggest they pat themselves dry or rinse themselves off? What's going to create
Rinse yourself off. Let the water run over your head. Flush. Keep that flushing thing going. And then when you get out of the bath, give it the tender care. Okay? Give it that tender care. Massage yourself. Inside the bathtub, be willing to massage yourself in the salt bath, because one 5 minutes rubbing on your kneecap or on your sore leg in that bathtub will greatly reduce toxins in that surface area. And it'll begin to break up with the heat of the water, and the combination of the magnesium sulfite will really have tremendous healing on you.
Wonderful. Now, in terms of salt and other neutralizing, you've also mentioned to place salt on routers.
Oh yeah, routers. Get about 1/2 cup of salt, like. Routers, your cell phones, don't sleep with your cell phone on. Stick your your cell phone on a salt rock if you really have to sleep with your cell phone on. It's not going to interfere with it, but it's going to take away the negative psychic data that's in there. All the routers in the house, what you can do if you can't turn them off at night is put a bag of salt on them. All the routers, not one, all of them. A lot of people have 2 routers in their house. And if you don't have, and if your neighbors will never turn their routers off and you got one above you and below you, go between the mattress of your bed or under your pillow, and put a bag of salt under your pillow or inside your pillow, so that other frequencies don't affect you while you're sleeping.
So talking about, preparing your sleeping area, and we've mentioned how salt is a form of crystal. What are some other basic crystals that people can use for protection in their space to help them with these processes?
Clear quartz is the big one. Rose quartz is the second one. Lapis is the third. Azurite, that's more of a rare crystal, but obsidian, agate, marble, pretty much right there. Rose marble,
Now,
different kinds of marble, natural stone, things that have silver in them.
now what about black tourmaline for
Black
gridding and
tourmaline.
protecting the house?
If you're gonna grid your house, black tourmaline or pink tourmaline is the absolute key to go, because it is there to store the dense energies and to store the frequencies of what you're declaring your sovereign reality. And when something goes to violate that, the pink tourmaline is connected to the tourmaline people who can provide the proper karmic retribution for something violating your sovereign free will.
Perfect. And when we talk about gridding, for those who don't know, it is just a simple act of placing stones in the corners of either your rooms, your properties, and placing them with the intention. And that's important. Attaching the intention.
And
And
then
how would you?
coming back every week or every month after you get really good at it and adding more and more intention to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there will be more.
Right.
Sorry, go on.
You have the four corners of your outside of the property, which is the actual physical property, the four corners of the outside of the house, the four corners of the inside of the house, the four corners of each room. Do you have to get that detailed? No. You can start with the four corners of the outside of your house. Okay, that's where you start. And when you want to get more and more detailed, you do that. Because it is your sovereign reality. Yours. And if you take charge of all the different grids of it and have a crystal that is intention in each one, that means the dense energies and the entities that are associated with dense energies have a very tough time of playing energy chess on you. It's much easier for them to go and feed on Joe down the street than screwing with you.
Perfect. Is there anything you wanted to add to this healing, this whole healing talk that we had to kind of close or round it off?
Be willing to explore your dream time. Be willing to do deep visualization of the aurora borealis. Why? That is where your ancestors live. That is your legacy. That is where unity consciousness exists and waits for you to acknowledge it. There is the great Dreamtime awakening in yourself. Take an opportunity to look at a fire ceremony, to do it for yourself. Do the detox on the colonics. Allow yourself to write your own contract revocations. Use what I have there as an example to create even better. Look at specific moments in your life where you want to revoke contracts, vows, and agreements with some form of perverted form of yourself that may have been really into sex, drugs, and rock and roll then, but that's not you now. Well, allow yourself to be, so that you can reconnect to your ancestors, reconnect to your soul family that you've incarnated with millions of lifetimes on thousands of different worlds. Allow yourself to be. Do not fall into shame, blame, and guilt. Do not fall into depression, regression, obsession. Allow yourself to be introspective, retrospective, and reflective on who you are, and what you've done in your life. That's what I want to say, is be proud of who you are. Be willing to tell your story to the fire. Don't give a rat's ass or a damn about the neighbor down the street. Okay? Just be safe with yourself. Allow the synchronicities into your life. Allow Spirit to touch you with her great mystery and wink at you and talk to you through the fire.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Hello, let's create, let's co-create, and let's change this world with love. No matter if you're from Alpha Centauri or Earth, we all began with the same birthing process. We live in a limited point of view. Living the mystical life daily is about striving for the unlimited point of view. Each day, each human being gets an infinite amount of choices. Living the mystical life daily is about facing obstacles and challenges. The level of awareness that you are working at means you have a responsibility to be equal with it. How does one truly let go of expectation? You can make the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to sleep sacred. The keys to success: choice, 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 and choice.